Ejiro Evero, or Evero, as some people like to say. He is a key piece to this Carolina Panthers defense, and I think he is the key to a few big questions that we are going to have going into the offseason. When I sit here and think about this team, some of the bright spots from this past year were on the defensive side of the ball. We know how good the overall yardage was, top 5. I know points allowed, whole different story, something that we've talked about, or I've talked about countless times, and how, situations weren't great for the defense in a lot of areas. And you throw in the pick sixes, fumbles, doesn't make a great recipe for the defensive side of the ball when it's talking about points allowed. But Ejiro Evero coming on now, so he was with, again, Denver. We know the coaching change there with Sean Payton coming in. Then he makes the move to the Carolina Panthers, has a really great year. And I think if the Panthers had had a 500 record, or, maybe even 6, 7, 8 wins, he would have gotten a lot more consideration for a lot of these head coaching jobs that are coming up in this cycle, or came up in this cycle, I should say. But it didn't happen. And so he's still waiting, at least right now, to find out if he's going to land the Seattle job. It's to be determined. But I think as we sit here, there's other reports now. Do you think he even wants to be here? And I think that's a great question to ask, because I can't answer it. I don't know if he actually does or not. But I can tell you, when you think about personally, if you are in whatever job that you are in, and there's a role that you want to apply for, and you have applied for it twice. The first time around, you didn't get it, but they're like, you know what? I guess you'd have to be outside the organization. You didn't get the role you wanted, but they're like, hey, yeah, but we got this other role. So you do that. You work really hard for a year, come back, and you're like, oh, well, the job's open again. See another posting. Let me apply. You go through the process, and you still don't get it. And so you're stuck in your same role, and you got to watch someone else do that while you sit here, and you're the one that's having to work your butt off. Not saying that nobody else is working their butt off. But you think about that coupled with him maybe just wanting a fresh start. Now, I know he's like making $3 million a year. It's what's been reported. So it's not like he's going to be poor by any means. But you do wonder, does he want to get out of here? If Canales doesn't, say like he doesn't want him out, but maybe they talk and he's like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather just get out. I think that's a possibility. And I think it's a possibility that if he goes, what we know about this team could be totally different story than what it was last year. And I say that because you think about the structure of the roster, and there are really 3 big questions. I think one will take care of itself, which is Derek Brown. We know Derek Brown's going to be here another year, but we would like to get a long-term extension, and you think you can do that when you bring in the new cap guy and Dan Morgan. It was a failure to do that for Brian Burns under Scott Fitter. Just never happened. We talk about negotiating these contracts. But that's the other one. Brian Burns is a big question mark. If you have this total reset, and it's not to say I don't want Brian Burns here, because I've said long time ago, I want Brian Burns. I want Brian Burns to Carolina. But at the same time, you have to think about where the team is today, where we need help, and where can you get value? And can you get into the first round to get a proven talent receiver, offensive lineman? And I think that becomes a real possibility if Evero is not here. So I think if he's gone, the team could say, well, you know what? We're already going to be missing him. We're going to be starting fresh on defense. Canales has a 6-year contract, so he's got time. You really can't get much worse than 2 wins. Like, yeah, you could go 0-4, 0-17. You could win 1 game. But thinking about that dynamic, at that point, you're like, okay, well, maybe we do trade Burns and we get as much capital and investment as we can for that pick. It's probably not going to be as much as it ever was, but maybe you get a 1 and a 2. You go through the franchise tag, or, give him the tag, look to get an offer. That's always a possibility. We saw it with Lamar last year. No teams bid on that. You have to give up 2 first-rounders if they ended up signing him. It didn't happen. The other one is Frankie Luvu, because I think that's like the 3 cornerstone dynamic. Could even possibly throw in JC Horn into that mix, because you got to figure out what you're doing with him as long as he's healthy. But Frankie Luvu, if I'm Frankie Luvu, I came in here during the Matt Rule years. I lived through Matt Rule. I lived through Wilkes. I lived through Frank, Tabor, dysfunction nonstop, performed really well, had the best 2 years of my career here. Now my value's much higher than it ever was, and I still got 3 or 4 good years or more left in me. And I know I can go out and get a 3-year contract, really good payday, could even play for a potential team that maybe wins some more games. You got all that in the back of your mind, and you're like, well, my defensive coordinator that I had all the success with here, at least this past year, is gone. Do I want to come back to this? I've already seen it. I've experienced it firsthand. Do I want to come back? And that's the question. Like, I don't know if he would. And I don't know if I was in his shoes and everything that's happened, if I would want to come back and go through this, the turmoil, the turnover on the staff, if there is turnover on the defensive side of the ball. So I think those are the questions I've got in my mind, which is why I think it's such a big piece to this all-season puzzle for the Carolina Panthers. So over these next, week or two, probably maybe even sooner, we should get clarity, and then we are able to move forward with who and what this team is going to be heading into next year, at least a general idea. All right, y'all, that's all I got. Peace.